Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah Hotchkiss from Catalyst Wellness Coaching. I think most of you have been here before. Today, we're going to keep the topic a little bit lighter because usually in November, especially we're in mid-November already, people are sort of on the holiday train of doing stuff and like not quite as busy. In fact, I always say I usually don't even come here in December because everybody's kind of doing their own thing and eating pie, so nobody wants to talk about nutrition. But today we'll lighten up a little bit and talk about caffeine and, like I was saying before, the pros and cons of caffeine. Um, so how many people in the room here drink caffeine on the regular, like daily? Yeah, okay. Like, so most people do. And so then what's your favorite caffeinated beverage?
I mean, what I mean,
Like, what's your favorite caffeinated beverage? Coffee, tea, pre,
oh,
there's tons of
coffee.
different coffee. Okay,
I drink both.
because we were talking about coffee, but there's lots of different
Yeah, I
like
drink both.
beverages have caffeine in it besides
Yeah.
coffee. That's like the first one people go to, but there's actually quite a few.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of products out there even that have caffeine in them. And so
Energy drinks.
one of the things, yeah, right. So we'll talk about that today too. But I have a clean, I guess it's called a pre-workout, but it's pretty light, is what I would say, at home. That's from the brand Just Ingredients, which you can really only get online. And I can't get it through Full Script, but it's a real clean brand. And she has like electrolytes and a whole bunch of other stuff. But sometimes what I'll do, what I did today actually, is put a scoop of that in there with my creatine and my electrolytes and whatever else I wanted to throw in there. And then it's kind of like fruity. But then, because some people will say, well, I don't like coffee, so then I'm not going to drink caffeine, but there's lots of other options. I mean, and also you don't need it if you don't want to, but like if you want caffeine, there's other sources. What about you?
Coffee.
Coffee? How do you guys take your coffee? How do you like
Used to
it?
be, used to be Mountain Dew, yeah, Mountain Dew, but now it's,
Ooh, that's a good switch then.
yeah.
So we'll talk about that today too,
I'm trying not to
like
eat a lot of
source of
processed sugar.
caffeine. I'm sort of less concerned about the caffeine, but like where it's coming from, the frappuccinos and all the loaded crap drinks. Do you just do yours black or a different way, or how do you like it?
I just had almond milk and honey.
Yeah, that's great. And you like espresso, but you like a honey latte, don't you? Or tell me what you
It's a honey latte.
honey
So
latte.
you have at least one of those a day.
And you use almond milk or what do you?
Oat milk.
Oat, okay.
Try to get the least amount of garbage in my oat milk possible.
Yep.
And then I start my day with Americanos.
Americanos, yeah.
And then sometimes I drink iced tea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not often.
Yeah.
And I had a soda like a month ago.
Yeah. Did you?
Didn't like it.
Yeah. That's usually what happens to people after they give it up and they go back to using it.
Diet Coke that they gave me at the airport.
Yeah, yeah. I've tried it
Oh, this tastes horrible.
every few years, like I'll try one too, and I'm like, ooh, like especially.
It tastes so fake now.
Yeah, I think I've told this story before, but I had worked with a friend of mine for a while, and she was addicted to Diet Coke, 35 years, something. So she'd been going through McDonald's getting Diet Coke and a blueberry muffin for decades. And so we kind of went like cold turkey, and it didn't actually take long for being on it for 35 years. It really only took a matter of a few months to get off it. Um, there was some fatigue and some autoimmune stuff going on, but I did say like, hey, if you are drinking it for the caffeine, I think she was getting like a 64-ounce Diet Coke, but like let's switch to like, do you like iced tea or like a cold brew or like, and she said, ooh, I like cold brew. I just never think to get it. And so she ended up getting like her own cold brew machine kind of at home, and we did that, and we did honey and oat milk or something like that, coconut milk, I think, and she made the switch, and so was all good. Inflammation went down, like other stuff, and then I think it was maybe a year later. Um, I said like she sent me a message like I haven't had a Diet Coke now for whatever, and I don't miss it, and I'm all good, which was also be good because she's going through and getting the muffin too, so it was like both.
Yeah.
And we talked about like she'd pass McDonald's, she'd salivate. I mean, it's just something you do. It's just like it was a habit, and we talked about driving a different way to work and like all these things. And so then a year passed, and she said, I haven't had one, and I said, I want you to try something for me. And she said, what? I'm like, I want you to go get a Diet Coke. You don't have to get the muffin, but I want you to go get the Diet Coke. She was like, why? Why would I do that? She's like freaked out, like she was gonna get back into the habit. And she's like, you're crazy. I'm like, I know, but I want you to go try it. And so sure enough, if she didn't, so she didn't have the hypersalivation symptoms or some of the things like going in there, probably actually a little anxiety, just thinking like, why am I doing this? Or why would I, what if I get back into this? And like, life's been so good since I've been doing this. Of course, she made other health changes. It wasn't just that, but so she went through, got the Diet Coke, took a big sip and spit it out her car window. It tastes totally different because, and when I work with people, like your palate completely really changes after a while of when you don't eat some of that stuff, and not overnight, but like really is sometimes in a matter of a couple months, you'll just be like, this tastes funny to me. And so sometimes I feel snobby because I tell the story about how I went to Culver's, like we were traveling or something, and I needed to get something. I needed to eat. And so I got a Culver's, like grilled chicken salad, strawberry, I don't remember what was on it. So, like a clean option. And a balsamic vinaigrette or something. And I ended up like picking through it and eating the chicken, the strawberries, and I left the rest because I kept saying like this lettuce tastes funny. And we're driving and tell my husband like this lettuce tastes funny, and he was like, "What do you mean?" Or "It's fine," or like it tastes like Windex smells like that.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't. It was bleh. I couldn't get through it. So then I did a little research too, and so Culver's and I'm sure lots of other places, they spray something on their lettuce to keep it, yeah, to keep it fresh looking and green, just like their stuff on salmon and all that stuff. So it's like, oh my gosh, I can't even get a salad, and whatever, I didn't care. And if it would have tasted fine, I would have eaten it because you just have to make the best choices you can when you're traveling, or we're not shooting for perfection, and who cares? But I really didn't like it. Same story, I've told the donut story before in here before. My son, I took him to get a donut 3-4 years ago. I don't remember. He asked for a donut. Maybe it was like 5-6 years ago now. Yeah, 5-6 years ago, because he's probably like in 8th grade. And I'm like, I don't know. Okay, whatever. So we go through, well, I haven't had donut forever, but I love donuts. Like I loved baked goods. And so I took him through and he got a vanilla Long John, like not filled. And they must have just been baking them. But they passed that thing to the window to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I can taste that. That's so good. Like that's gonna be amazing. And so I passed it to the back seat. We start driving away, and I said, hey, give me a bite of that. And he said, what? Like, you don't eat donuts. And I said, today I do. I want a bite. So I passed it, and I'm like, I'm smelling it. Smells good. I take a bite. I'm chewing it. Like the first couple of bites are like, okay. And then same thing, like something, it tastes like plastic or something to me. And then I notice as we're driving away and I'm like swallowing it, I didn't want any more. I had this like film on the top of my mouth, probably from the, hydrogenated fat or whatever. Like, and it wasn't just, it was really sweet, but that wasn't really the issue. It was just something, it just didn't taste right. And then I didn't know whether or not to be happy or upset by that experience, because I thought, well, that's great. I don't really want to go back and get one, but like it would have been nice to enjoy like a donut. And so I have no issue enjoying other baked goods, but they're just not crap. So like when I go to Bodacious and getting gluten-free brownie, I think it tastes decent. I can't eat the whole thing. I eat maybe like a third, but like stuff like that is great. So it's not about having none of that stuff, but just, yeah, your palate, definitely will change. So we'll talk about that a little bit today too, kind of like clean sources of caffeine. Does anyone know how many, you might, because we talked about it, anybody know how many milligrams of caffeine that you are drinking in a day? Are you aware of that?
No.
Yeah.
Is caffeine in coffee naturally occurring?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm. And in fact, decaf coffee is a little more processed.
that's why I figured.
Yeah, which doesn't necessarily make it awful, but like
Right.
it's just,
Right.
one more
I
step.
probably drink like 8 ounces of espresso. How many is that?
So depending on where you get it from,
Okay.
espresso is 9 milligrams of caffeine per ounce. That's not very much.
So 72.
Yeah, so 72. That's about right, or 10. Yeah.
It used to be a lot more.
I remember you doing a lot more. And when people come to me too with a lot of fatigue and energy, which is a lot of times why people get going on coffee and some of those, besides like the taste, I just really enjoy like the taste, and I think it's a good ritual. But like, yeah, if you're drinking, 500 milligrams or something like that, that can potentially like mess you up.
How much is it?
A standard cup of coffee, yeah, it's about 70 milligrams or so, so, which isn't, that's not a lot, that's not a lot. But remember,
Yeah, it's true, but I eat instant coffee, and I really make it very strong. I don't like my boyfriend to see how much coffee.
because you're like coffee with a splash of water. Yeah.
I use like, and then I was actually just starting to think that I was gonna stop drinking coffee because I
Yeah.
didn't think it was good for me.
Yeah.
But I think my problem is I used to put creamer.
Right, so that's most people's problem.
Right.
If your coffee
So I don't think it's the
is
coffee, it's the
beige,
creamer.
if your coffee's the color of your sweater, then that's not, you know,
Right.
that's not where, that's why I ask people, like,
Right.
when I do intakes, like, oh, do you drink coffee? Oh, yeah. And I'm like, okay. And I don't pull caffeine for most people, depending, because a lot of times I'm pulling lots of other things too. And so that's usually the least of my concern, depending on what's going on. And we'll talk about that a little bit too, but I'll say, what, you know, what do you like in your coffee? How do you? And they'll say, oh, a splash of creamer, a splash, or, you know, half a cup. So I was recently working with a woman who was putting like probably mostly creamer in a splash of coffee, and like not the decent creamer either, like Coffee Mate or something like that. And so I had her over the course of 3 weeks send me pictures of her coffee cup, and we just basically tried to slowly make it less beige and more dark brown. And I gave her a different creamer option, Elmhurst Farm, just a cleaner option. I'm like, I don't really have a problem with you add the creamer either. But also, she was trying to lose weight, wanted to be in a caloric deficit. It was like a couple hundred calories in her coffee just because of all the creamer. And then she'd sometimes put sugar on top of that, or like a Splenda or some artificial sweetener. And I was like, well, but her palate had not adjusted to how sweet, you know, it was just, she was really drinking kind of like sugar, you know, like she was drinking creamer, not coffee. So, frappuccinos are like that too. So we slowly worked on her just, you know, adjusting that.
Well, I bought the sugar-free kind. I bought two different places. Didn't like either one of them. I ended up throwing.
Yeah, I generally don't
and
like
I bought the
sugar-free
stuff
stuff.
out here in a carton because it was right out there by the deli because it's pumpkin spice. So I like.
Yep.
I absolutely hate it. I'm like, I will stop drinking coffee before I go to that because it was awful.
And so you got to find something you like.
Right.
Elmhurst Farm is at Festival, and I think maybe we have one or two of the milks in here. They have creamers and milks. That's a pretty good clean brand. Something about that brand though, they don't use gar gum or any of the fillers, so you do have to give it a, because people are like, oh, this one's bad or it's gross. I'm like, no, you're just used to something that, you know, has all the gums in it, and those aren't necessarily the worst thing either, but like, so you just got to give it a little shake. Or I have one of those little like battery operated like frother thing. I love that thing. So I'll put something in there and just kind of like froth it up a little bit. And so, and like, why not have fun with it too? So, and so, yeah, so it's in soda, coffee, tea, energy drinks. And so caffeine is naturally occurring, but the way that we drink it a lot of times is the issue, because then what else are you getting in your body besides, you know, just the caffeine part? So it is technically a drug. It does stimulate your nervous system. That's why people like it. That's why people drink it in the morning. And it gives you that, you know, temporary energy. There is some connection with like mood boost. If you are drinking a good organic coffee, the antioxidants in there are actually very good for you, like the health benefits. So there's been quite a bit of research just done on sort of, you know, I don't want to call them superfoods, that's sort of like a slang, but coffee does rank like pretty high up in there. Probably not your instant that you're using, but like probably yours from Mocha, you know, like if you get a good brand. And so that might be something for you to think about, is switching to somehow maybe a coffee that's a little bit more naturally occurring as opposed to the processed instant, if you like it.
And I was just buying the store brand because it was cheapest at
Yeah.
and the food club or whatever. But then I saw they had this other kind of cafe boost. Is that how you say it?
Mm-hmm.
It's got like a yellow label, and it's like this. They actually have instant.
That stuff's amazing.
Yeah, I've heard that's good
instant
too.
espresso, but I stopped buying that too because it's a little more expensive.
So one good brand, and I have this at my house too if I ever need it for baking or if I'm adding stuff, is Anthony's Organic. And that's like an instant coffee. I would say more of an instant espresso. I've used that before. That one's pretty solid. And it's like $20 for like a huge bag. It would last you forever, you know? So I think that one's a good option. There's another one here that's instant. It's by the coffee. I can't remember. It's like $10 and it's in a container, and they have a decaf and a regular. That one's good too, and I've had that one before. So if you like the idea of something quicker and instant and whatever, I think that's a good idea too. So before caffeine is processed in a lot of drinks and foods, it has a more bitter taste. So that's what we were talking about. And so a lot of times, sort of the less processed it is, that more bitter bite that you might get. There's caffeine in chocolate too.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, more than you think. Not a lot, not a
Is there
lot.
more in dark chocolate than in
A
milk
little bit
chocolate?
more, yes, because dark
Because
chocolate's a more pure form of,
Right.
cacao. So, or if you get like cacao beans or like even cocoa powder, there is some. Not anything that unless you're crazy sensitive about it, I would worry about, or like having hot chocolate at night or anything like that. I don't think. But some people are very sensitive, and so for most people, a cup of coffee or two in the day is like going to be not that big a deal and maybe good if you're getting a good source of it. If you have anxiety, if you're diagnosed with AFib, any central nervous system disorder, sometimes coffee can really be an issue. Um, and especially depending on kind of when you drink it.
What
So
about that Lily's chocolate bar that's out there?
yeah, so that might have some in.
Okay.
Technically, it's supposed to be listed if it's, I think, over 10 milligrams or something per serving. I don't remember, but it's nothing I would worry about, but it's just something to remember that, for somebody who's like hypersensitive to it or whatever, just to know. Or to know that maybe if you ate, like the serving size of the chocolate is,
Yeah.
like if you ate the whole bar, like then maybe you will be getting like 20 or 30 milligrams or something, which isn't a ton, but if you had that at 10 o'clock at night, like maybe that would keep you up, potentially, but I think a lot of times people are like, oh. And so there is an addictive quality to caffeine, I think, too, because it makes you feel good. And it usually kicks in like 15 or 20 minutes, but everybody metabolizes it differently, too. So has anybody tried to like give it up if you're drinking, give up caffeine, and have you had any withdrawal symptoms?
Oh, from soda, when I stopped drinking as much soda, headaches.
Yep, headaches is like the number one besides fatigue. So I have done it 3 or 4 times in my life too, like a kind of a detox. I was detoxing from other things too, but usually 10 to 12 days. And I did not really have headaches, but I just kind of felt a little, I don't know, floaty, like kind of groggy. And I wasn't drinking a lot,
If
but
I go to Asia where the clock's upside down,
oh yeah, then you,
then I
sure,
don't drink coffee.
Sure.
For 3 or 4 days.
sure, which is
You go
very
where?
smart.
Asia.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay, okay.
It's
Mhm.
like Thailand, Vietnam, it's 12 hours different. So you're already a mess.
Yep, getting there because of the time change.
So
Yeah,
drinking coffee is not going to help your cause.
Right.
So I just don't, and I
Right.
go with the head.
yep.
And then after about 4 days, I go find those fantastic. 'Cause Thai
Yeah,
coffee-
I was gonna say Thai coffee's really good. That'd be
Thai
hard for me to
coffee
say
is
no to.
amazing.
Yeah,
I've had Thai coffee out at the new place, Little Sisters downtown, next to Sandy's Thai Fusion.
sure.
I've had their.
Yep.
Yeah, it was very good. I was kind of surprised. I didn't really know what to expect.
Yeah.
It was very good.
A lot of times when people are wondering what it might be like, sometimes I tell them if they're going on a vacation where they can sleep in or they don't have to, like it's not a go-go vacation, or they're sitting on a beach or they're renting a cottage or an Airbnb or something where they don't have to get up with toddlers, or like it's going to be very relaxed, like that's a good time to do it. Maybe you deal with a headache for a couple days, but honestly it's usually not forever. The more caffeine you are drinking, though, the more significant the withdrawal symptoms can be. And so I think that's something to keep in mind too. So yeah. So moderate, and it just depends on your size, which I'll talk about a little bit too. But moderate consumption is considered 150 to 250 milligrams a day. So I know when I remember at the athletic club, and I know when I talk with guys at the gym there, a lot of them are doing 400, 500, 600 milligrams. And so then that's a lot. Also, I would argue they'll probably metabolize it differently than me too, depending on your body weight. So I suggest, generally speaking, for most of the population, an upper limit of milligrams per your total or potentially your ideal body weight. So if you weigh 150 pounds, then 150 milligrams on most days is a good upper limit. And obviously getting that in, the first 6 or 8 hours of the day and not too late, but like that. And so for some of you who are moderate drinkers, that might seem like, oh, that's reasonable. Some people that I tell that to, they're like, whoa, I'm drinking way more than that, So that's generally like a good, but then you have to know the whole milligrams thing and kind of, look at that too. So most stuff is listed on, beverages. So like this tea was 50. So if you weigh 150 pounds, you could drink 3 of these easily and not, generally have like major side effects. But remember, your body will get used to it too. So I talk to some people that every year they do like a 2 week, 50 weeks on, 2 weeks off, and they kind of like detox a little bit and like reacclimate their body to how much caffeine they're getting too. So, and so yeah, everybody's a little bit different, but espresso probably has the most, and it varies quite a bit. I mean, it could be, potentially it could be more than we said. I was just gonna say, I think I said that wrong because I wrote down 127 milligrams for 2 ounces, so that's 64 times 2 is 128. So like espresso is quite a bit. Yeah, I said that wrong when I told you that's regular, that's regular coffee. Espresso, because when I looked it up at Starbucks once, it's 70 milligrams per espresso shot.
Closer to 800.
Yeah, because you're doing 8 ounces of espresso.
6 at least.
Yeah, 6. I was thinking 6 for some reason I was thinking just coffee, because that would be like, yeah. So that means, yeah.
Better than the
So
1600 I was doing.
right, so then you cut it in half, so that's good.
Ain't low, you won't be disappointed.
Energy drinks are all over the place. Some of the lighter ones are like 70 milligrams, and then all the way up to probably 300-400. And again, my concern there, although 300-400 in one drink is a lot. Actually, one of my concerns is kids drinking stuff like that, like high schoolers and stuff. Yeah.
They say with a lot of young men are having.
Yeah, heart
more
issues.
Men, I think, drink,
Yeah, men in general are drinking them quite a bit more, I think.
The school at the gym always has one.
I know. I see it a lot at the gym, like those kind of energy drinks. There are some, a lot of people, like Celsius is a brand, Rockstar. I don't even know half of them, but and there's some that are a little
It's
bit.
kind of funny because it seems to me, I mean, I've been very active all my life. When you do exercise, it tends to be more energy. So
Well, and focusing on natural sleep too, and like sleeping enough, which sometimes can be an issue during times of stress, menopause, things like that, that can throw you for a loop. But then, so you can look too on my website. I have 2 blogs that are up there, over the past handful of years. One is Why Am I So Tired? That's the title. And the other one is How Do I Get Energy Without Caffeine? So those are both good reads that are kind of connected here, but talks a little bit about just so you're not maybe reaching for all the caffeine, how you get natural occurring energy, and just so you're, how do you fix the fatigue first? And that's, getting good labs. Maybe you have an underlying condition that's making sure you can sleep, is sleeping 8 hours or whatever it is. And if you can't sleep, let's figure out why you can't sleep and fix that. Because if you're not sleeping well, you're probably just going to be tired, period. And so fix that first, and then, then worry about the other things. Yes, movement. So sometimes I see people too who will say like, I'm just tired all the time. But like I've worked with a few people who like work at home part-time, no kids, they're literally sitting the whole day. And so if you're sitting the whole day and you're sitting on the couch and you're not moving, you're not doing anything, you're gonna be tired. Like I'd be tired if I sat, I'd probably naturally fall asleep. So then they're dozing in and out all day. Yep. And then they can't fall asleep because they've been sleeping on and off all the day. But if you're not moving, so you have to, expend enough energy to actually get tired for your body to want to go to bed. So, and ideally, I would say the first 8 hours of the day too. So if you're up at 7, let's say you sleep 11 to 7, but if you're up at 7, generally I'd suggest getting most of your activity in, between 7 and 3, and your caffeine too, and then let your body kind of wind itself down. That doesn't always work for everyone, and that's okay, but you should, with our circadian rhythm, and naturally, we need to kind of nudge ourselves to do more in the beginning of the day, or have do those things that spike our energy more in the day. And then, now it's like bringing dark at like 4:30 or whatever, but and then nobody wants to do anything then. So, but like we should be kind of training ourselves to like wind down at a certain point. Maybe not 4:30, but at a certain point in the day. So, instant coffee is like 60 milligrams in 8 ounces, but again, it probably varies. 60 milligrams, in 8 ounces. But it sounds like you're using a lot too, so maybe look at the serving. Black tea or green tea, 50, 65, 75, a lot of times for like 12 ounces. And so quite a bit less. And then soda, 35, 45, and I'm talking for a 12-ounce can, not the big honking ones, but for 12 ounces. So it varies quite a bit. But if you keep the milligrams per body weight kind of in, that's generally like a good. Now, and everybody metabolizes things differently too. So you have to see how fast it kicks in for you. And some people are their body's so acclimated to caffeine that they'll say, oh, I can drink 3 Mountain Dews or whatever, and then, go to bed.
Yeah, I used to be
That's
able to
probably
say,
not great.
I could drink about
If your body can, it's probably not good. That's kind of, I mean, that'd be similar. Alcohol would be the same thing, honestly. Like, if you have to drink more and more and more to get sort of that effect, then that's not good. So that's, it's just kind of another form of addiction.
So is it good, would it be good to take like a detox for caffeine?
I'd say depends on how much you're drinking. You can try it and see what happens to your body. I don't think it's the worst thing or something you have to do tomorrow, or I'd rather have somebody like clean up their diet probably than detox that really. But so can give you temporary mood and energy boost. And so how it affects you depends on how much you weigh, your current health, whether or not you are drinking caffeine regularly. So if you're not drinking it regularly, it's like every couple of weeks you all of a sudden suck down a cold brew. You're going to feel that probably much more than if you're used to doing it kind of every day. If you take other vitamins or other medications with it, or you are on certain meds, like that can affect how that metabolizes, in your body too. And then just obviously the number of milligrams or how much you're drinking. Also, I would say like it'll hit you differently if you're sipping it throughout the day as opposed to if you suck it down all in like 15 minutes, might be, kind of more even energy versus, which depends on what you want. You could do either, but like that would affect too. And so you're not getting that like rush kind of all at once. It might be like, so that's actually why I prefer iced. I actually feel a little dehydrated on hot, but, and I drink hot too, but I like iced because then I can kind of sip it. It's not all day, but sip it over the course of like a handful of hours basically, and not have to keep like re-microwaving it or whatever because I'm racing around. So I just use like a Yeti or something, and that works out well for me. What I have actually is, the way I moderate mine too is I have an 8-ounce, so it's like this, but it's only 8 ounces. I have an 8-ounce Yeti cup at home, and so I'll fill it with ice, and then, and then I do a cold brew. I like Festival has Vizzy is the brand, and it's organic cold brew, so that's one I buy. But it has a lot of, it has like 250 milligrams, 260 in 12 ounces. So then I just make sure I cut that in half. So the way I get 6 ounces though is I just fill my thing up with ice. I have glass mason jars at home too that aren't very big, 8 ounces, but I just fill it up with ice, and then it gives the illusion to my eyes that I'm having a full cup. So you just gotta, so then I'm really only getting like 4 ounces probably, and that's probably 80 milligrams, but so I usually just basically do that, and then maybe a little bit of something like that scoop of pre-workout on my drink, which isn't a lot. So I usually try to stick to around 100, but I could probably do more and be fine too. It depends. Obviously, if you have nausea, vomiting, you start shaking. I notice sometimes that happens with me if I don't do food within a few hours, or if I like suck down a whole bunch of caffeine or cold brew because it's yummy, and then I don't eat. I wait too many hours maybe to eat after. I might just get a little jittery, and so.
Coffee tends to curb my appetite.
Yes, mine too. Yeah, so that's why another reason why a lot of people do it. I mean, caffeine does in general.
I don't like eating like I just had that pasta salad from here. I will not drink coffee with that. My boyfriend would drink coffee with like any kind of food, like pizza or anything like that.
Oh no, not me.
I kind of prefer.
No, I like it plain. Yeah, I don't like it with food actually. Yeah. It does. It can curb your appetite because it kind of gets your, metabolism going a little bit, and then you just kind of don't think about it either. So, and that's okay. Some people will do that and like fast in the morning. I would just say, don't do it and then eat a donut at noon either. So like just make sure if you're going to fast and you feel better doing it, everybody's different. I'm not really pro or against fasting, but different people, different bodies. But if you're not hungry in the morning, don't eat, especially if you're trying to lose weight. If you're trying to gain weight, then I would say try to push maybe a little food. But yeah, that varies for everybody, I think a little bit too. But if you have some like irritability, agitation, fluttery heart rate, like again, if you have anxiety or panic attacks, like caffeine can be not great. AFib, panic attacks, confusion, all that stuff.
Well, my boyfriend just had open heart surgery. I was very surprised that they allowed him to still drink coffee.
Oh, interesting.
Maybe right afterwards, in the first day or two at the hospital, he had the food for the most part. He could have caffeinated coffee, but they wouldn't let him have whole milk because of the fat.
Right.
And he's a retired dairy farmer, so
that was probably harder for him than the coffee part. Yeah. If you get too much caffeine over a long period of time, anxiety, trouble sleeping, ulcers. Um, there is some link with osteoporosis, and so for women in particular, because it can mess with your bone density. So if you are a female over the age of 50 and you haven't had a bone density scan, you should. I'm not saying guys shouldn't, but like more often, guys' bone density is usually fine. But I've had two. My first one was not good, and my last one about a year ago was great. Um, and again, there's many things that go into like bone density and stuff. So it's not just coffee, but it's just one of those things like over the course of time that can do a number. Irritability, headaches, yeah, rapid heart rate, breathing. Um, my pulse and blood pressure are so crazy low that like caffeine's probably a good idea for me. So like it just gets me going a little bit. Um, Nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, yeah, blood pressure issues, things like that. Another story, diarrhea. When I do a good intake with people and I get a sense of like what they're eating, sometimes people will come in and say they're having diarrhea. Or I had a woman that I was working with, it was running the bathroom 10 to 12 times a day. And so my first instinct was like, oh, we're gonna have to do a stool test, like, cause that's a big deal. That's not just like probably a diet thing or just like that's a big deal. And she'd been having it for quite a few years, or as long as she can remember. I mean, not her whole adult life, but like quite a bit. And I thought, ooh. So I don't remember why, but I didn't do a stool test with her. Or maybe she was like, oh, they're like a little over $300. Maybe she was like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. And I think I said like, let's just, maybe we'll tweak your diet. Well, I hadn't finished the intake yet. We got to the beverage part. And I said, what do you drink for beverages? And well, she didn't drink much water at all, other than what was in her coffee. Like I took her in her coffee. And I said, oh, coffee, what do you do? And she said, I drink it black. I'm like, okay, how much about? And she goes, like a pot. So she was drinking about 12 cups of coffee a day. She had a very high stress job in town here, some funky shifts, and she just liked the taste of it. And she just said, I just like it. That's all she's drinking, like hot coffee. Well, so then probably there's she's getting still quite a bit of water in that coffee, but like some dehydration there and whatever. And I said, okay, wait a second. Let's not do a stool test or even change your diet yet. She had Hashimoto's and some other things. 12 cups is too much for you. And she was about 200 pounds, but I thought this is so a lot of people will drink coffee in the morning to like induce a bowel movement. And so in my head, I'm thinking, well, geez, let's take the caffeine part away and maybe it's just that. Sure enough, I saw her 2 weeks later. And very easily, she cut from 12 cups to 2. She actually didn't have any headaches or which I was like surprised because I thought, oh my gosh, if you're going to do this, you're going to take off work for a week, And she went from 10 to 12 bowel movements a day to 2. So she had some other things going on and we cleaned up her diet, but like primarily that was actually the cause of her. And she goes, oh my gosh. Here she paid me XYZ dollars to tell her just to cut the caffeine back. But, so it's just kind of like making sure, just like anything else, it's in moderation or reasonable. And in my opinion, just getting it from a good source. So I like the idea of getting it from Mocha or like the other brand that you talked about too. Or like I said, Busy's a good cold brew brand if you like it kind of ready to go. The Chameleon, I think it is a good cold brew brand here too. And then, so like just, trying to get it from kind of a good source too. How long is it in your system? It varies, again, depending on your metabolism. So the slower your metabolism, the longer it's probably going to sit in there and more likelihood it's going to impact your sleep. So my metabolism is pretty decent and I really could drink coffee up until probably 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the day if I wanted to and probably be fine. But everybody's a little bit different. So I used to work out at the gym at about 7 or 7:30 at night. And I noticed about 4 or 5 years ago, A, I was having a hard time getting in the winter in the dark, and B, I was having a hard time falling asleep kind of all of a sudden. Some of that was some hormone changes and menopause stuff, but I thought, dang it, I'm gonna have to move my workouts. But the other thing was I was drinking like my other half of my cold brew right before I would go to the gym to talk myself into it, and give myself just a little bit of a like boost of energy. And so maybe it was 40 or 50 milligrams, but it was, maybe it was 5 or 6 o'clock at night because that was getting kind of late. So between that and then going and doing a workout, and running and lifting and, whatever, like that was just, I didn't have enough, even though I go to bed later, it wasn't quite enough time for my body to, it was probably only 4 or 5 hours for my body to kick down. So the timing, I think, of some of that matters. Typically, it's in your system 4 to 6 hours, the majority of it, but oftentimes we might not totally clear it for 12 to 24. So that's why people will say, like, if you're going to detox, I wouldn't just do it for a day. Like, I would try it for a week and see what happens. Just see what happens. Just, it's information. Decide if that's something you want to do. So, but there are some pros to it. Like, if you get a good, organic whole ground, there's a ton of antioxidants in coffee. Like, quite a few. It's actually one of the higher antioxidant food or beverages that we can consume. Gives you, gives you energy, and that's why most people do it. But there is some connection with serotonin and mood a little bit too. So I think that's why it just makes them feel happy. So people do it. So, and I think most of the cons are stuff that we've talked about. But if you stop it, then there's withdrawal. So that's the other thing is, like, are you drinking so much that, like, when you're traveling, that's what you're thinking about? Like, where's coffee? And I got to get to this and whatever. Yeah. So, just that's fine. But, like, keep that in mind then. If you didn't have it, would you be like a mess for a couple days? And is that going to work for your, lifestyle?
So everybody doesn't just choose to drive to Wisconsin Rapids to go to a coffee shop?
Right. Just to get, I don't think so.
I think the Rapids, do they have especially good coffee there?
I just remember my best friend and I drove to the Rapids one time to have coffee.
From where, Gainesville?
Bradenton.
Oh yeah, that's a hike. It's like 4 hours round trip to go to Rapids. Must be some good.
Near the Rapids, we went
Oh,
to
yeah,
coffee and then
okay.
came on.
Okay.
It's a good road trip. It's good quality
Best
time.
friend since middle school.
Yeah, time to go. Something to do. Bone density we talked about. So I think we covered kind of most of those. So one of the things that I do, so as far as caffeine goes, it can kind of mess with your adrenals if you have it right when you wake up too. And I know that's hard because I know that's what most people do. So one of the things I try to get people to do, and I know this sounds like a long time, is to wait 2 hours after you are awake to have your first cup and consume water first.
Is there something besides coffee you can drink before you have your coffee?
Water. You really shouldn't drink any caffeine because you want your body to naturally wake up, try to get sunlight. We want to honor our circadian rhythm. Otherwise, you are forcing yourself awake. And then some people are, a lot of times I talk to people and they're like, well, I have coffee in the morning and wine at night. You're forcing yourself awake and asleep over and over and over again. Now, is there worse things? 1 cup of coffee, 1 glass of wine? Absolutely. But then over time, sometimes it's like, again, you need a little more to fall asleep and then you need a little more to wake up. And so one of the best things you can do is not be dragging yourself.
Let nature take its course.
Yeah, and I would say more often this affects women than men as far as like adrenal fatigue and all that. This is like issues with cortisol but yeah, so you should drink something when you wake up, but it should be water, or it could be lemon water. It could be like an herbal tea, like a non-caffeinated, but you should get as much water because you're going to be dehydrated. You haven't had water to drink for probably 10 hours. And so you're naturally dehydrated when you walk up, or, when you wake up. That's probably one of the other reasons I prefer ice too, because I feel like it's a little bit more hydrating for me. And so I get the hint water. I think they're here.
Oh, those are good.
So I love those. And so I have one by my bed basically. And so when I wake up, I just,
Those are here?
I can't remember if they're here. I know they're at Festival in Woodman's, like $1 a piece.
Yeah.
Um,
they have them at,
No sugar, no, it's
Ivy,
just, they just like have a hint of like a natural flavor.
Yeah.
That gets me to drink enough water, but I put one by my nightstand before I go to bed, and I take a couple things before I go to bed, and I basically polish the rest off when I wake up. I mean, I don't chug it, but while I'm kind of getting ready, I finish 16 ounces of water. Or if you have digestive issues, I suggest like squeezing a half of lemon in hot water or cold water, but like getting 16 ounces of water down. But I generally do suggest 2 hours before you have caffeine. If you can't do 2 hours, try an hour first. And so that looks like that's gonna be hard for you. Yeah, start with an hour. But get water in first. Like you don't want to be dehydrated and then go straight to caffeine. You really are just kind of like forcing your body to.
30 minutes would be better than what I do.
You do it like, because a lot of people are like literally within like 5 minutes of like, they get up, go to the bathroom and go straight to
I
water.
like that. Nice, some Dolly Parton.
What?
A 9 to 5 song.
Yeah. Do you do it right away?
Immediately.
Immediately, yeah. And so if you feel like you have
Right.
enough energy and you're fine, like leave it alone. But it really is like a suggestion over time. And like I said, I see this more with women than men. But like we don't want to be forcing our body to sleep. So you should get sunshine, water, although like not as much fun things as the coffee. But like you really should like naturally try to get yourself to be awake and then hit it. So yeah, I probably don't have it till 9:30 or so, 9 or 10, like whenever I'm kind of heading out. I'll take it with me, and then I stop it usually around 1 or 2, something like that. Whenever I'm done sipping on it. But I tend to do actually just espresso over ice and not even the Americano because I like it really strong. But also I know that if I put espresso over ice and do whatever, that I'm sipping it throughout the day, and even in the Yeti, like it's gonna slowly melt. And the worst thing in my opinion is watery, flat coffee. So I like it to do strong, and then so if I don't really go to Starbucks very much, but like, or if I go to Mocha, I'll just say espresso over ice and like splash of cream and honey or cinnamon, maybe something like that, because I know, especially if they give it to you in like a plastic cup, and especially if it's summer, the worst thing is you get a nice fancy schmancy espresso beverage and then you leave it you run into Target and you leave it in your car, and then you can't even drink it, like it's done. And so I just know that I tend to sip on it, so it's going to take me a while, and so I'd rather start strong, start stronger. So, do you guys have any questions?